wonderful, wonderful talk on something that you call terminal chop. And let me just set things up. I'm adept at doing nucleofragments and separating the nucleus into two hemi nuclei at the start of a chopping case. But there are these lenses, and it's as if they're made of like auto tire rubber. You know that you get a crack, but it really, you can't get it full thickness. You can't get the pieces separated, and the rest of the case is just difficult. Now you've come up with a technique to deal with even these sorts of lenses with a new sort of chopper positions in a new sort of way. Can I get you to talk about that for me?
Thank you very much, and it's my pleasure to be here with you. That is the most important thing, and I am talking about the terminal chop. Terminal chop is a new concept to break the nucleus into two complete pieces. Now this concept we took out because after working a lot on the extracted nucleus, which we took out from the extracapsular cataract surgery, and then we worked on these nucleus in our lab, and then one day we found that there is a way to break this hard nucleus into two complete pieces. Why this technique was developed? Basically, I have been doing Phaco cataract surgery now for the last 25 years and been trying to break these hardest of hard cataract into two complete pieces with the existing or the current techniques. And many times, like you can put it around 70 to 80% of the cases, I was not able to break the nucleus. And then you have to do a lot of struggling, you have to do a lot of manipulation, and then what happens, you tend to use high intensity phaco power in the anterior chamber, which would result into an unsatisfactory post-operative result. So that is the reason this technique was developed. With this technique, now I'm very easy to break the hardest of hard nucleus into two complete pieces. The technique, the principle of the technique we took out, like when we have to break a hard rock, suppose you have to break a hard rock, structurally the hard rock and the hard nucleus, they are same. Why they are same? In the nucleus you have a very sclerosed and very thick and very hard fibers, and it makes a nucleus. So there are layers of concentric layers of the fibers. Similarly in rock also there is a concentric layer of the cemented material. Okay, so we have seen the people, those who are breaking the hard rock, what they do, they look at the weakest point of the hard rock, and that weakest point they put their chisel and just put few strokes on that chisel, and this small crack at the weakest point of the hard rock traverses or travels through the whole rock, and the whole rock gets into two complete pieces. Now instead of putting the compressive forces from outside, like if you want to break the hard rock and you keep hitting it from outside, it will take months to break that hard rock, the biggest hard rock. But with the simple technique of finding the weakest point and then putting chisel there, and you can break the hardest hard rock into two complete pieces. The same principle we applied here to break the hard nucleus. In hard nucleus also there is a weak point. So where is the weak point? Weak point of the hard nucleus is at the equator. If you go at the center it's very thick and it's very hard and it's very bulky and it's very strong. But the equator of the nucleus is very soft, it's very narrow and thin, and it's very weak. And the cleavage plane is very easily available at the equator. So that was the concept, the principle we worked on breaking the hard nuclei. So what we do is basically we have to reach the equator. So how to reach the equator? Our phaco probe has to penetrate from the center of the nucleus, not deep, but it has to go superficially towards the equator. We don't have to go into the equator, we have to be within 1 or 2 millimeters within the equator and leave it there. Hold this nucleus there. Now if your phaco probe is at the equator, you can move the nucleus very easily out, right, left, up, down, and anywhere you want to move it. So what we do is we slightly move it up. So the equator of the nucleus is visible. Then what do we do? With the specially designed chopper, we hook the equator. We hook the equator and then draw it slightly within the equator, because the equator of the nucleus, 1.5 millimeters of equator of the nucleus is very soft, and if you hook it, you can very easily draw the equator of the nucleus, that chopper, into the equator of the nucleus. Now both instruments are now holding the nucleus at the equator. and then you put the lateral separation vector forces, and the vector forces would very easily initiate the crack at the equator and start separating the nucleus into two complete pieces. And then what happens, the crack which is initiated at the equator, it very easily traverses through you don't have to bring the chopper towards the center of the nucleus or on the other side of the equator. The crack traverses from the equator to the center and towards the other side of the equator. And in 100% of the cases, you get the complete segmentation, complete two pieces of the nucleus, and then rotate the nucleus. The same method you apply on the heminucleus, divide the heminucleus in two, the second heminucleus into two, then you get the four complete pieces, and they are free pieces now. There is no conjoined segments, they are absolutely free, and then you can just hold one of them, emulsify, and then the other one, and this is how you complete the complete emulsification.
Now, the design of the chopper is as a sort of a curved hook with a little olive tip at the end to protect posterior capsule, so that you know that you're not poking through capsule to give you that sort of leverage. Yeah. The thing that I like about this technique is the conventional way of doing nucleofractus is that you're starting in the lens and you're attempting to get the crack down, and it's sometimes difficult in these very hard rubbery lenses to get it full thickness. You, by using this hook, are already starting out full thickness, and you're just getting it to propagate. Naturally, it's going to propagate full thickness also.
Yeah, the chopper which we are using, we have designed it specially. Now this chopper is called as the Rajendra's terminal chopper, and it's now available with the Epsilon company. This chopper has a special angulation because the normally chopper is at 90 degree or a little more than 90 degree, 110 and 120 degree choppers. But this chopper is 80 degree angulation because it's little curved inside, 80 degree.
To get that
to get the hold of the nucleus. The tip is olive tip. So since the tip is olive tip, it's not going to harm the posterior capsule in any way because it's an olive tip. And then the front surface of the chopper is blunt. It's not sharp because you are not interested in cutting the nucleus. You want to hold the nucleus only, because if you cut the nucleus, the periphery, then you will not get the vector forces.
Right.
You have to just hold it, and then holding the nucleus there with the chopper, it gives a good cleavage, like the lever forces, and then that works on the hardness of hard nucleus and gives you a complete separation.
Rajendra, this is very, very clever stuff. Very smart. I'm delighted that you gave your talk, that you thought of this in the first place, and that you've been so very generous with your time with us today.
Thank you.